So moving from the US to Europe and from industry to government, our next keynote speaker is Ms. Lorena Boix Alonso. Lorena is the leading official in the European Union responsible for digital and cybersecurity. She is a member of the Executive and Management Board of ENISA, the European Commission representative in the governing body of the European Cybersecurity Competency Centre, and a member of the board of the Computer Emergency Response Team for the EU. Lorena is the Director for Digital Society, Trust and Cybersecurity in DG Connect at the European Commission. And we're delighted to have Lorena join us today. She was hoping to be here in person, but unfortunately, she had a change of plans and wasn't able to make it, so she's going to be joining us by live stream, hopefully. There. Lorena, can you hear us?
Yes, I can perfectly hear you, yes.
You're very welcome to the first Cyber Ireland conference that we're running in person. And Lorena's keynote is going to cover the significant cybersecurity developments in the European Union and what this means for the cybersecurity industry in Europe, but more specifically, companies in Ireland as well. So Lorena, over to you.
Thank you very much, and indeed apologies. I would have loved to be there, and I really tried, but I have to be somewhere for a cyber event, also very, very important, and it was impossible to match the two trips, but okay, here I am. Indeed, what I'll try to do is to recap a little bit the latest developments at European Union level in the field of cybersecurity. And I'm going to talk about the last 2 years. On the one hand, because these are the 2 years where I have been director, so I was not dealing with this before, but also because in these last 2 years, there have been two key events, even if I'm not sure we can call them events, but major key issues that have happened and that have had an impact on how we see cyber, and also have prompted us at EU level to sometimes advance or even come with more ambitious proposals in the field of cybersecurity. Of course, the first event is the COVID-19, and we all know that this created a change in cyber because there was an increase due to a number of reasons. We were working from home, trying to steal interesting information about vaccines was also a great incentive to the nasty guys to increase attacks, and also taking advantage of our eagerness to get info about what was going on, prompted a lot of increase in phishing as well. So that's one of the issues, and of course the other one is the aggression by Russia over Ukraine. Even if for many of us, or for some of us, the situation as regards cyber attacks maybe is not as dramatic as we expected it, neither in Ukraine nor in the European Union. It has, in any case, raised the level of awareness and of worriness, I would say, of what could have happened or what could still happen. And I think these two issues have obviously impacted all our actions in the last 2 years. As you know, at European Union level, we deal with several instruments to tackle this issue of cybersecurity, which is delicate because obviously national competences are really there, national security, but there are many things that can and should be done at EU level if we want to tackle and be cyber secure. We have 3 instruments to deal with 2 aspects of cybersecurity, what I call the ex-ante aspects and the ex-post aspects. So the ex-ante is like, okay, let's be cyber secure, let's try to avoid that something happens. And then the ex-post or more the operational aspect, which is very tricky, given precisely these national competences, is the ex-post. What if something happens? If there's a large-scale incident in the European Union, are we ready? And are we ready to work together? because it will be cross-border and we will need to cooperate. And I would say not only within the EU, but even with third countries. And also the situation in Ukraine has prompted us to revisit again, are we really ready? How are we cooperating? So let me go through what we have done using these three instruments we have, which is legislation, then we have investment, we have money, a strategy on investment, and then we have what I would call more soft law, or more even in the field of cyber, working together with member states. We don't need sometimes any legislative action to be able to work together. So starting with legislation, what have we done in the last 2 years? Well, you all know we have made a major step by revising our Network Information Security Directive, which I must say today, when I look at the directive as it is applying today, I say, wow, we were not very ambitious. At the time we adopted it, it was super ambitious, because at the time we adopted this piece of legislation, there were not even cybersecurity strategies or plans in most member states. There were many member states with not even cybersecurity agencies. So at the time it was a major step. Today it looks like, okay, well, that's all. And this is why we came with the revision. The fact that the new piece of legislation, the new directive, was adopted in a little bit more than 1 year is already quite major, and shows a lot of the change of mindset of member states. I mean, the first piece of legislation took us more than 4 years to negotiate with Council and Parliament. This one was done very quickly. For me, what is very important of this new piece of legislation is not so much, but it is, of course, the fact that we increase the scope so that many more sectors are now covered. I mean, manufacturing, even social media, labs, and most importantly, public administrations now subject also to cybersecurity obligations. But for me, what is very important is that all these obligations that now we are imposing, I mean, you are imposing, it's a directive, you are adopting the law at national level, to have crisis management plans, to have reporting obligations if there is an incident with strict deadlines and all that. This is very important, but for me what is most important is that now there is no need for member states to identify which are these companies or public administrations that are subject. If you are in the scope, you are subject to these obligations, full stop. And that, for me, it's extremely important. We know it's a major impact on industry, but at the same time, we also know how major are the impacts of the attacks. So I think that's a very good development. The fact also that enforcement is reinforced and harmonized. So I think that NIS2 is a big step of what we've done in the last 2 years. But for me, something that is also major is the new baby that we adopted just some weeks ago, and that has been mentioned from what I hear just before I joined, which is the Cyber Resilience Act. There was here a major gap in the way we are legislating in the European Union, I would say in the world. Today with NIS, we were covering services. I mean, how do we protect those services that are so important and sometimes essential to society that we want to have them protected? But what about the products? And here I say digital products. I mean, when you look at all the major increases in cyber attacks, you need to think that 2/3 of those come from the exploit of vulnerabilities in digital products, including software, and most of them software. And also you need to be aware that around 50% of producers and developers are placing in the market those products knowing that there are vulnerabilities, so with known vulnerabilities. You will tell me it's normal. I mean, we really need to place our products on the market very quickly, otherwise we lose the market. Indeed, but of course you can do that because the bearing of the cost today is with the user. So what we are now doing is trying to shift this and to, in a way, fix something that seems obvious but had not been done. Today, nobody puts into question that products that are placed on the European market need to have been checked against safety requirements. Are they safe? Nobody puts that into question. But in the 21st century, we need to make sure that digital products are also cyber safe. And that's what we are doing. Basically, what we are doing is to, in a way, make the internal market rules up to the 21st century. So this is a major piece of legislation because, well, it's a regulation. And because it's not only a matter of now, before placing it, you will need to check, you will need to do your self-assessment. Sometimes you may need to go to a conformity assessment body. But for me, what is major as well is that this is going to launch a request for standards. So there's going to be a major process of standardization here. Of course, we will need to take into account and we will need to work together with our colleagues across the Atlantic, but we will need to look into standards, and that's going to be a major exercise for you and for us. So that's very important. Then, maybe not so much in your radar, but just to recall that we will be coming soon with adopting the first certification scheme at EU level. This is an implementing act that will come adopting finally the EU common criteria certificate scheme. So that's going to be important. Then if I move to another major instrument we have to push cybersecurity in the European Union is investment and a proper investment strategy. Here, as you know, we created, and it's now alive and kicking, the Cyber Competence Centers that is managing investments both from research and from deployment, so Horizon Europe and the Digital Europe program. This is now working. The governing board meets and I'm a member indeed, and it's now working. We don't have yet the final building, but we are already really working. Just to let you know that here, in terms of priorities, there is one that I want to mention because it's something that we haven't forgotten. In the December cybersecurity strategy of the European Union, we launched this message and launched this project that is ongoing, which is the idea that now is much more than an idea to network security operating centers in the European Union. So this networks of SOCs, it's something that is ongoing. We are having a lot of discussions with all member states in the context precisely of the Cyber Competence Center to see how we push this project. And this is ongoing. So expect that priorities in terms of investment will focus very much in this sense. And then now, to conclude, there is also this other leg. This other instrument that we are using, and maybe it's less visible, which is soft law and basically cooperating with member states. And here, of course, the major example is the 5G toolbox, which was, I believe, a very efficient way to work together with member states on something which is extremely important, which is to have our 5G networks safe, cyber secure. Now, a major development was this year the adoption of an Open RAN report. So to move ahead and start checking also and doing a risk assessment of Open RAN, where, of course, the report obviously finds the good things in terms, for example, of interoperability, more diversity of supply, but also pointing to the potential risks. And this report is something I think very, very important. Then, just to let you know that more on the operational side, there are a lot of work that is being done. together with member states, maybe less visible. Some of it comes from a request from the Council in the famous, well, I say famous, I don't know if you know them, but the Council adopted some conclusions called the Cyber Posture Conclusions. And there were a number of requests to work together. One of them, which I believe is of extreme importance, is the carrying together of a risk assessment of the cybersecurity situation right now in Europe in case there is an attack. And we are doing this with member states, together with ENISA, with the External Action Service, identifying what key sectors we should start with, and then to try to build risk scenarios. So this is something that was requested by the Council, and the work is ongoing. Then there was also a request, for example, of a mapping of security communication channels in case something happens. There was also a request that I will mention here and probably finish, because I know that maybe you want to rather ask some questions. But there was also a request for a cyber emergency fund. And this request was called by the GAC Council, but also by all the telecom ministers, to let you know that we are, of course, analyzing very seriously this request to see how this could work. So a fund that could be triggered in case there is a large-scale incident. So I'm going to leave it here because I'm at 9 seconds of doing 15 minutes, and I will be happy to reply to questions if there is time. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Lorena, for those updates. We're now going to have some questions from the audience. So just so Lorena can hear us, if you can raise your hand and one of the mic runners will come to you. We have one over here on the left-hand side. But just before that, Lorena, maybe just to kick things off, you mentioned the European Cybersecurity Act, which provides cybersecurity certification schemes. And I understand that ENISA is working on drafting a scheme for cybersecurity certification of cloud services, which may exclude US and UK firms from being certified to a high level in Ireland and other EU member states. So I suppose I'm wondering what's the Commission's position in regard to this, due to the importance of foreign direct investment in Ireland?
Okay, well, I'm going to reply very shortly, because you know what is the process for the cybersecurity schemes. And normally ENISA makes a proposal, takes it with the expert group of member states, and then transmits it to the Commission, and the Commission checks in comitology with member states. So when we will receive the draft that will have been consulted by ENISA to the ECCG, as we call it, then we will assess the draft, and then we will adopt ourselves an implementing act. Before that, there is nothing I can comment. The only thing I can say is that, of course, you know what is at stake. It was even mentioned by the previous speaker. But you also know that whatever proposal from the Commission respects always all international rules, and that will not change. So I think that if I can send a message of reassurance that we have, for the moment, never come with any proposal that breaches any international rules, it will be the same here. But you will need to let us time to follow the process, and then we will assess the proposals.
Thank you. I think we have one question over here.
Yeah, my question was very, very similar. The Cyber Ireland study, which I read yesterday, stated that 80% of the business of organisations, cyber security organisations here in Ireland, is across is foreign, most of it which is across member states, and you were talking about alignment of cybersecurity certifications, but there's basic certifications. So, for example, the VOG in the Netherlands is one. There's similar certifications in France, in Spain, in the UK, but most member states don't have an equivalent of the VOG in the Netherlands. So, you know, which is what did they describe it as? A certificate of good conduct for individuals. So when I've got a team based in Bulgaria, France, Ireland, and we're looking to do work in the Netherlands, and this is down to cooperation between member states, we cannot certify to the VOG, or we can't certify easily with the VOG in the Netherlands because there's no equivalent in France, Bulgaria or Ireland. There is an equivalent in Belgium, so the Dutch-speaking countries seem to be able to cooperate, but outside of that, we struggle. So here is an opportunity for the likes of the Commission to iron out to align the member states and to get, you know, and to get us all with a similar entry level for all cybersecurity professionals working across the European Union.
Thank you.
Thank you. I take it as a comment. I mean,
Yeah.
Indeed. I mean, that's exactly the objective of the EU cybersecurity schemes. Is to try to harmonize and make sure that you don't have those troubles. As I said, the first one to come will be the common criteria one. And then the ones that are ongoing, as you know, is the cloud, the 5G. And then we will see, because as I was mentioning before, in the Cyber Resilience Act, there is, and it's not only the Cyber Resilience Act, but in the Cyber Resilience Act, there is this mentioning that we could come with a request for further certification schemes if it looks justified, precisely to help, because these certification schemes will be very helpful to demonstrate compliance with the Cyber Resilience Act. So I think that we may see more activity in this field. Then, as you know, there are other pieces of legislation that have referred to certification at EU level as possible proof of compliance, like artificial intelligence or even the e-identity proposal. So we are more and more aware that this can be indeed something very helpful for industry.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? I have one more for you, Lorena, anyway.
Okay.
So you talked about regulation from the EU for cybersecurity, and obviously we have the NIS directive and NIS 2. Recently, Ireland's Comptroller Auditor General published a report on the financial impact of the cybersecurity attack on our healthcare sector, which happened in May of 2021. Now, the report doesn't mention the NIS directive. So I suppose, is there a reason to believe that NIS 2 will be more effective? And how is the Commission going to ensure that the new directive will make a difference?
Mm-hmm. From my point of view, the NIS 2 will be much more effective. One of the things, and I was mentioning it in my opening remarks, that for me today doesn't work is that, for example, and I will not disclose anything, but when something major happens, not necessarily in Ireland, but whatever country, we don't even know whether that entity is covered by NIS, because you have the right to decide whether you cover it or not within the sector. Now, with NIS 2, there is no choice. Every entity covered in the or within the sectors covered by NIS will be obliged to take the measures. So I think that is a major change. Also, the fact that the measures are much more concrete. Sometimes we are even told, is this really a directive? Looks really more like a regulation because of the degree of concreteness of the requirements, the obligation of reporting. I mean, it's. I think that we are really. This is going to really make a difference. I'm absolutely sure it's a major change in the way we are legislating here. Now, indeed, I don't know if in the particular case of Ireland or whatever other case, because we don't have this transparency. Were the requirements respected? Were they even applicable to the specific entity? This will be more clear now.
Thank you, Lorena. So if there's no further questions, we're going to close it there. Thank you very much for your time. It is a pity that you couldn't be with us here today, but hopefully we may see you in Ireland next year.
I will certainly be there next year, I promise, yeah, if you invite me.
Cheers. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.